Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today's video is another Premier League predictions video. Obviously with the FA Cup taking place as well this weekend, there are a few postponements of a couple of the games that are taking place. But we're going to include tonight's games as well between Brighton and Hove Albion against Crystal Palace and Southampton taking on Brentford. So we're going to include those games as well as all the games that are coming up this weekend. It's another big round of Premier League fixtures that are coming up whilst the FA Cup obviously is taking place as well. And we're going to go through each and every single Premier League game, talk about it, and also give predictions on the possible outcomes. Before we go any further though, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into the predictions. We're going to start things off with tonight's games, Wednesday night games. And first up, we're at the Amex Stadium for Brighton against Crystal Palace. Big game for both of these sides, this one. But more so for, well, still a big game for both sides. You've got Brighton that are chasing some form of European football for next season. They can still get into them European football places and have got a very good chance to do so, especially with other teams around them being inconsistent and faltering at certain points. And with Brighton, they've still got games in hand, so should they use those to their advantage, they'll put themselves in a very strong position for those kinds of places for next season. Against the Crystal Palace side, they're obviously in need of points. They still haven't won in 2023 in the Premier League. They are in they're in for a big week this week. Let's put it that way. There's a double game week for Palace this week. They are definitely in for a big week, in need of some points, in need of putting some relieving some of the pressure, should we say, off of Patrick Vieira that's been growing on him in recent times. I'm going to go with a Brighton win. As soon as the reason that they're at home, they're in pretty good form. They are obviously chasing some form of European football place. I'm going to say that Brighton come out of this one as 2-1 winners. Next up, we're at St Mary's. It is Southampton taking on Brentford. Big game again for both of these sides. You've got Southampton that are battling down at the bottom of the table, battling relegation. And of course, coming into this one off the back of what was a rather fortuitous in certain aspects draw against Manchester United, but still a very well hard-earned point at that. Against the Brentford side, who of course suffered their first defeat at the weekend in 12 Premier League games. So they'll be looking to get back to winning ways here. Look, Southampton are always going to be difficult, no matter what. They'll make things awkward. They might not have the sustainability to survive 90 minutes, but they will still make things a little bit awkward nonetheless against the Brentford side, who of course on their day can be very strong, very easy on the eye, and can definitely turn on the pressure whenever they need to do so. A draw isn't out of the realms of possibility, but I'm going to go with the more favourite. I'm going to say that Brentford come out of this one with the win and the 3 points, get back to winning ways, and I'm going to say that the Bees come out of this one as 2-1 winners. Next up, we're moving on to our Friday night game, and for our Friday night viewing, we are at the City Ground in Nottingham for Nottingham Forest taking on Newcastle. Big game prospect for these two teams. You've got Forest that are in need of points and in need of getting back to winning ways due to the fact that they've not won in their last 5 games. Not won in the last 5 games against obviously a Newcastle side who go back to winning ways with a 2-1 win over Wolves this past weekend. Look, you've got Nottingham Forest who are very good and strong at home. They're stronger at home than they are away. They cause teams problems when they are at the City Ground, as we've seen with the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City already this season. And I would suspect that with the hostile atmosphere that they bring every week to their home games, they might cause Newcastle some problems here. But on the flip side of that, you've got a Newcastle side that are in pursuit of some sort of European football. Champions League football is still seemingly up for grabs. They could definitely spring a surprise in that form as well. And in this game, you would probably suspect that Newcastle are going into this game as the favourites. And with the players that they have, and obviously with the way that if Forest decide to get a bit adventurous and going forward, they could definitely spring some counter-attacks. And with the pace that they have on the break, like with the likes of St Maximin and Alexander Isak and Miguel Almiron, you could definitely see Newcastle taking this game to Forest and taking the 3 points back to Newcastle. As far as I'm aware, whilst the Newcastle result, a win, seems the more likely result. I am going to say that Forest come out of this one with at least a point and say that Newcastle and Forest ends 1-1 come the final whistle. Now moving on to our Saturday games, and first up, 3 o'clock game is Aston Villa taking on Bournemouth at Villa Park. Big game for both sides. Aston Villa unbeaten in their last 3 games against the Bournemouth side that will still be riding high off of that rather surprising, shall we say, with all due respect, victory over Liverpool last weekend. Bournemouth obviously fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table. Need to throw caution to the wind here, in my opinion. It's alright beating a team that you weren't expected to beat as a bit of a free hit, shall we say. But it's all about how you follow that up. And obviously against the Aston Villa side that are finding their feet still on Unai Emery a little bit, but are pretty strong and pretty resilient, to say the least, on their day. This one could be a very intriguing battle when these two teams meet on Saturday afternoon. Look, as far as the result goes, it will be typical of Bournemouth to get a big victory the previous weekend, and then in their next game follow it up with a defeat. A draw certainly isn't out the realms of possibility, but I think with Aston Villa being at home, I might just give the edge to the home side in this one and say that Unai Emery's side come out of this one as 2-1 winners. Next up, Brentford. Again, we're back to Brentford. They're at home and they're taking on Leicester Saturday afternoon. Big game, intriguing game between two sides who obviously like to get the ball down and play some nice football at times. You've got Brentford at home, so that could raise their stake in this game as being the favourites. Brentford very good at home, very strong at home against obviously a Leicester side who may benefit from obviously Brentford having to play midweek, so that could also play a factor in this game. Leicester obviously have the extra days to prepare for this one. Brentford obviously have the double game week this week. Look, obviously without knowing what happens tonight, what happens on Wednesday between when Brentford take on Southampton, quite difficult to call this one, and especially with the extra fatigue levels and everything, it could prove difficult. Plus the inconsistency of Leicester factors into it as well. So with all that being said, I think I will go for a Brentford win, but only just, not entirely confident given obviously the reasons I've stated before. And I'm going to say that Brentford come out of this one as, again, 2-1 winners. Next up, another team we've already talked about this week, Southampton. They're at home against Tottenham. Big game for Southampton, like I say, bottom of the table, or near the bottom of the table, in need of points, in need of obviously getting as many points on the board. They come up against a Tottenham side who, again, you don't know which kind of Tottenham side is going to turn up. This is the kind of game in which Tottenham should be winning. Obviously, they go into this one as the favourites. But again, this is Tottenham we're talking about. And Tottenham and favourites often causes banana skin fixtures for those that have a bit of a bet and a bit of a gamble when it comes to fixtures. Tottenham should be winning this game. Tottenham have the match winners to win this game. The likes of Son, Kulusevski, and of course, Harry Kane leading the lineup. But this is the kind of game in which throws a banana skin. Not just because it's Tottenham, but because Southampton are the underdogs, and often in these types of underdog situations for Southampton, they often throw out a bit of a surprising result. As much as a draw may be possible, I am going to stick with the favourite. I'm going to stick with a Tottenham victory and say that Tottenham come out of this game as 1-0 winners. Next up, we're at Molineux for Wolves taking on Leeds. Intriguing game this one. Wolves obviously finding their feet a little bit and then stuttering at times under Julian Lopetegui, as we found out last week when they lost to Newcastle against a Leeds side who, again, are in a relegation battle. They need the points. They drew last weekend 2-2, fought back to thwart Brighton from taking the points on that day. Will something similar happen here? Wolves at home, they're pretty strong. They're pretty difficult to beat at home. Leeds, again, inconsistency levels rising high and then dropping low. A Wolves win is probably the likely result, probably given that they're at home. I am going to say that Leeds battle to another draw though, and I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. Our Saturday evening clash sees Chelsea take on Everton at Stamford Bridge. Massive game for Chelsea and for Everton in this one. Chelsea obviously seemingly under a little bit of a revival right now. A few wins under their belts, a bit of consistency brewing, it seems, for Graham Potter's side. Whether that will last or not remains to be seen. They're taking on an Everton side that under Sean Dyche have been gathering a bit of momentum themselves here and there. They are taking points. They are starting to build towards a bit of a Premier League relegation fight, a relegation battle. Obviously a massive 1-0 win over Brentford last week, and once again Sean Dyche manages to produce a very good result when they needed it most. But they come up against a Chelsea side who, like I say, gathering a bit of momentum. Now this is a good opportunity to say again, this could be a potential banana skin for Chelsea. They are at home. Everton's a bit of a free hit. Everton sometimes are a bit of a bogey side for most of these kinds of teams, and especially for Chelsea. It could see Chelsea dropping points, but I actually think that it's going to be the opposite. I think Chelsea will continue their good form, and I think they'll continue to get results. And obviously, like I said before, this is a big part of the season for Graham Potter. This is where we need to start showing that the level of excitement and optimism that the board is showing the fans is matched by what Graham Potter is trying to show on the pitch with the players that he's got right now. And I think that he will get it done in this game, which is why I'm going to go for a 2-0 win in favour of the Blues. And finally, the only game on this Sunday will see Arsenal take on Crystal Palace at the Emirates Stadium. Top of the table, Arsenal against the Crystal Palace side with Patrick Vieira at the helm, who of course will be making his return to face his former club of Arsenal this weekend. Look, like I say, it's a massive game for both clubs. Arsenal, with Manchester City not playing this weekend, Arsenal obviously want to stretch their lead as much as they can on Manchester City and obviously put a bit of pressure on them to obviously win what would then be their game in hand. You've got a Crystal Palace side who might still be winless in 2023 when this game comes around on Sunday, should they not obviously win tonight in their fixture. It's going to be a big game. It's going to be an intriguing game. Palace have always been a bit of an awkward side. Sometimes they can really turn it up. Sometimes they can drop low. It's a bit awkward, and especially with it being away from home, you would strongly suspect that with the way that Arsenal are playing as well, them to be the heavy favourites going into this one. But don't let that fool you. Don't let it be a foregone conclusion. Obviously, if Arsenal take their eye off the ball, it could be a bit of a disaster for the Gunners. I don't expect this to happen though. I strongly expect Arsenal to go on and win this game and be a bit more comfortable. This is a bit of a London derby after all. Big game for both sides. Obviously a big welcome back for Patrick Vieira, but of course he won't want to be too sentimental and won't want to obviously just hand Arsenal the victory as much as he might like. But Arsenal should win this game nonetheless. They are playing the better football. They've been incredible this season. They've really rode out that little bit of bad patch of form that they had at the beginning of the year, and they are still going very strong. And like I say, with an opportunity to stretch their lead at the top of the table to 8 points over Manchester City this weekend, with City obviously being in FA Cup action, I would strongly expect Arsenal to take advantage of that situation, which is why I am going to say 3-1 to the Gunners, and Gabriel Martinelli to continue this very good form he's on by getting on the score sheet yet again. But as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the games that are coming up, not only tonight, but of course across the weekend of upcoming Premier League fixtures? What are your own thoughts, your comments, but most of all, of course, what are your predictions for all the games that are coming up between now and Sunday? They could all make for interesting reading down below in the comments section, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League predictions show, and I will see you all again soon in another video.